And again, they're just going out there and shooting all these people, and their only concern is, ooh, we don't want to look bad to the chain of command. And it's not the image of the American fighting man that we, the people who pay the bills, want to see.
Well, even on the blurred footage that's third or fourth generation that we're seeing, you can see the little kids' faces looking out the car, and they know, and then they laugh about it later. That's got to be the most painful part about this, because this is destroying the name of our country, Mike.
Absolutely. It's dragging the image of the United States through the dirt. Not that it needed much help from the last 10 years. But yeah, we've got to get these videos out there, because it's going to become impossible for the U.S. government to sell a new war in Iran when Americans see the conduct of our troops in the existing conflicts. And I know the corporate media is out there trying to excuse this all away and say, well, bad things happen in war. Yeah, and our side is doing them. We're the invaders.
If the system can set the precedent to allow this type of merciless killing, they will carry these type of operations out in the United States, and they are deploying drones now. Police departments are getting weaponized drones. I want to talk to Mike Rivero, and then coming up the next hour, we're going to play the second half of this video here in audio about Obama. That's why the corporates picked him. That's why they brought Obama in, was because the unpopular war issue would then basically go off the table, and he's increased drone attacks. He's increased many of these wars, and that's why we're exposing him as Barry Soetoro. By exposing the fact that his real name is Barry Soetoro, that he's an Indonesian citizen, that he waived his U.S. citizenship, and is ineligible because of that, more than even the questionable birth certificate, we can also discredit and bring this system to justice. That's why we got this new T-shirt for sale. It says Barry Soetoro, big picture of Barack Obama, a.k.a. Barry Soetoro, Infowars.com on the back. You want to educate people about Barry Soetoro, get this T-shirt at Infowars.com, and your purchase also supports the radio show. You can also order the 2 new films that are coming out this month, Infowars.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Mike, that question about Barack Obama, where is the left? Where is Dennis Kucinich? Where are all these people that were supposedly against these illegal wars?
Well, they're basically showing their party loyalty and basically revealing that both political parties really are personality cults. Who's ever at the top, we worship and agree with them, and we attack the guy on the other side. In a lot of ways, the political parties are functioning as religions. They've got the personality of the figure at the top, who is always right, is presumed infallible, and always at making fun of the leader of the other cult on the other side of the aisle here. But the reality is that we, the American people, who are expected to provide money and our children for all of this stuff, we need to basically look at the fact that these politicians, like religions, they're making promises they can't really keep and have no intentions of keeping. And that really, for me, is the issue here. We've got a government that feels they have the divine right to lie to us at any and all times, whatever lie they can come up with that'll keep us contented and complacent, or at least silent and obedient. That's what they're going to feed to us, and they think there's nothing wrong with that. And they don't understand why, after all the lies that we have seen from the last several administrations, the American people are getting fed up. We're tired of lies. We don't want to live in a world of lies. I know that politicians like to go around saying, mundus vult decepi, the people want to be lied to. That's not true. I don't want to be lied to. I demand the truth from the government that is demanding my money and obedience and my family members to die in wars. And we're not getting it. And on that issue alone, I think it's time for the American people to stand up and say, no more. Enough is enough. We were promised that this administration was going to end the wars. They haven't done it. It's time to it's time to say, okay, this administration's a failure. This government is a failure. They are not responsive to the people.
I want to get this in now. Here's Reuters. NATO rejects Russian call for Afghan poppy spraying. Here it is on record. They let the poppies grow. It's policy. NATO Wednesday rejected Russian calls for it to eradicate opium poppy fields in Afghanistan, saying the best way for Moscow to help control the drug would be give more assistance against the insurgency. Russia's anti-drug czar, Viktor Anovov, met NATO ambassadors in Brussels and proposed that NATO troops be given a UN mandate and an obligation to eradicate Afghan poppy fields, which were killing 30,000 Russians a year. But NATO said no, that they're going to let it grow, because if they do, it'll make the insurgency mad, when our government is in control of almost the whole country and is out there protecting the poppy fields. I even heard a BBC piece where they admitted this. I mean, they're now out in the open protecting the poppy fields, but then I'll drive through a military checkpoint asking if I've got their stinking drugs. Again, they bring the drugs in as a way to get in your life, as a way to get the military involved in your life, as a way to federalize law enforcement, and as a way to put nonviolent drug users in their private prisons, competing with the rest of the outside industry. We'll be right back in 70 seconds with the third hour with Mike Rivero. But Mike, other points that we haven't made about this whole situation.
Well, the bottom line is that the American people are being fed a major deception operation to convince us that this war is really very good, and it all goes back to Sun Tzu and the art of war. All wars based on deception, because in order to win, a nation has to feel they have the moral law on their side, and clearly we do not. We all know that these laws, these wars were started with lies and deception. So the government's trying to convince the American people who are paying the taxes and providing the children for these wars that there is some noble, good purpose to it all, and there just isn't. These videos are really going to hammer home the fact that we're the bad guys this time around, and I don't think that's going to sit well with the American people. Of course, the same government that's putting drugs into our soldiers to make them kill crazy over there is probably at some point going to be thinking about, maybe we ought to put something in the water to calm everybody down. I noticed this recent talk about legalizing marijuana. The government may be so afraid of the American people that they're going to say, all right, let them get a little bit high. That might just keep them from storming Capitol Hill with flaming torches and pitchforks and tar and feathers. But, it's a very scary time right now. The American people have to face up to the reality of what these wars are, because this is how history is going to judge us. This is why it's so difficult to do business with other countries. Nobody likes us anymore. Nobody trusts us anymore.
Well, I've seen a university study that in the worldwide, the U.S. is listed as the 6th worst police state, only behind countries like North Korea, Cuba, and Mexico, and a few others. I mean, by every yardstick, we are a police state.
We are a fascist dictatorship. The economy proves it, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, history has shown once a nation goes fascistic, they never pull back. They have to keep on going till it either collapses or there's a revolt. Well, you're right about that, and I talk about this every day because it's now been in WorldNet Daily, AP, Reuters, Bloomberg, Business Week. But Business Week and others are saying it like it's good. Federal regulators are now ordering private pension funds, as if they have that power, to invest their money, quote, in failed banks so it can be taken. I mean, obviously they're getting ready for martial law if they're talking about taking everybody's pension fund. I mean, this is so lawless, so illegal, so criminal, so obviously wrong. And what do they think the public's going to do? I mean, if 99% don't get violent, the 1% that does is going to be millions of people going ape. Well, after Joe Stack crashed his airplane into the Internal Revenue Service, I think a lot of people realized the American people have been pushed to the limit. The U.S. government, because of its enslavement by the Federal Reserve System, has no choice but to go on looting the American people to give it to the private bankers. At some point, the American people are going to fight back. There's going to be one foreclosure too many. There's going to be one failed business too many. There's going to be one mass layoff too many. One more. There's going to be a breaking point. There has to be, and that's what the government's getting ready for. I think we're probably going to see the government is going to try and actually force a response in the American people, just like we see Israel doing to Palestine, in order to justify that military crackdown on the timetable of the government's choosing.
Mike, you've been saying that for a long time, and now it's all coming together as anarchist groups funded by the big banks are saying they're going to go out in provocateur actions with the Tea Parties this month. I see staged government terror to be blamed on the Tea Parties. The government wants to have this physical confrontation sooner rather than later. We'll talk about that on the other side of your phone call. Stay with us. Your calls are coming up responding to the gun camera footage out of Apaches in Iraq, killing reporters, shooting children, lying about them, saying they had weapons. The Pentagon today and the New York Times admitted they lied about a massacre of pregnant women. They dug the bullets out of them trying to cover it up. They killed Pat Tillman, murdered him in cold blood because he was going to come home and turn against the war in letters he wrote home to his family. And I've talked to his family. They understand it was a hit. And the evidence is that it was. The point is, the elites see humans as negatives, that there's too many of us, that we're worthless. They have no love of human life. They see us as human resources to be used and abused. A lot of conservatives like the Patriot Act, like torture, like war, but you don't like unconstitutional government takeover of health care, and you shouldn't. You notice Obama's continuing the wars and torture. You should love him. You can't like one unconstitutional thing because you buy propaganda and then not like another. And our country is bankrupt. These wars cost over $1 trillion a year. What, the Pentagon budget is $1.1 trillion, off budget $600 billion, not counting black budget, close to $600 billion on top of that. That's over $2 trillion. Corporate interests are taking over our society. They're militarizing our police. They're turning us into a prison economy.